Story 1. When I was little, maybe 5 or 6 years old, we lived in a great big house. It had originally been 2 cottages that had later been joined together. Although myself and my sister were young at the time and had no personal experiences, my parents told us stories about what had happened there when we had moved houses some years later, as well as familiar cold spots and creaks and groans. Some other stuff went on in that house, too. One day, my mom was downstairs in the bathroom when she heard a man cough, just coming from just the other side of the door. Thinking it was my dad, going into the study room, which was opposite from the bathroom, she thought nothing of it. When she came out of the bathroom, however, the study was empty, and no one was outside the bathroom door. She went back into the kitchen and found my dad, right where she had left him, sitting at the table. She asked him if he'd come outside the bathroom door, and coughed. But he hadn't moved the entire time she had been gone. Another time, my mom, dad, and one of their friends were sitting at the kitchen table, and they all heard a massive crash come from directly upstairs, where my bedroom was. My mom described it as the sound of a wardrobe falling over, or a full-grown adult being thrown violently to the floor. They rushed upstairs to find me fast asleep, and nothing out of place in my room. We even had the fireplace in my room checked, in case a stone had fallen down the chimney. Nothing was found, and there was just simply no explanation. Everyone in the house was accounted for. One night, my parents were in bed when they heard the sound of a woman gently humming. The sound came from the end of the corridor and continued downstairs. Then it eventually stopped. Again, they could not explain this. My sister and I were asleep, and even if we did get up, we certainly were not walking down the hallway, humming to ourselves. My grandmother's house was also haunted. It was a manor house that was around 200 years old. My grandmother has a story which even to this day she swears is true. She was walking upstairs when, in front of her, she saw a pair of woman's shoes on the step above. She looked up to see a skirt, a blouse, and before she could see the woman's face, she vanished. My dad's family all grew up in this house, and my uncle mentioned that his bedroom, he used to hear the sound of gravel crunching outside, like someone was walking towards the house. On several occasions, he even recounts seeing 2 large black dogs sitting by his bed. Although I like this house, I always get the feeling of being watched whenever I'm over there. If I sit in the kitchen, I always want to look into the parlor, which is next to the kitchen, with the door always open so you can see in. I always feel like someone is sitting in there. Even to this day, I refuse to go upstairs by myself. Sometimes you can also see a key moving in a locked door from the inside when there's no one in there. Myself and my sister had a weird experience. We were sitting outside. The garden is kind of placed on a hill, very sloped, that you reach by climbing some steps. From where we were sitting, we could see just barely into my grandmother's bedroom. She had gone out shopping for the day and had left her 2 dogs on her bed. We were just watching them, talking, when suddenly one of the dogs started barking at the corner of the room at something we could not see. She, the dog, then jumped on the bed and started barking directly at us. Then, at the exact same time, we both saw a white mist, sort of in the form of a hand, move gently over the dog's head. She stopped barking. My sister and I both looked at each other in shock and surprise. We had both seen this, but could not understand what we had saw. It was daylight, but it was not sunny. It was quite cloudless. There was no reflection on the glass, or anything like that. There was nothing to reflect, no trees behind us or anything. And we had quite clearly seen the mist from inside the room. Story 2. The Man. I've always believed in the paranormal. I've had many, many encounters with ghosts. It's never really bothered me. My daughter was born in 2006. Around the time she was a year and a half, we moved into a nice, older home. The first night in our new house, we were camping out downstairs because our beds hadn't been unloaded yet. Around 2 a.m., I woke because you could hear the sound of someone walking around in her room right above the kitchen. At first, I just blew it off as an older house and the such. When the sound continued, I walked upstairs, only to find my daughter's closet doors open and things scattered around her room, like someone had been ruffling through boxes. Again, I blew it off, thinking that my kid brother had been playing a trick before he left. The next morning, we were setting up her room, and I noticed her sitting, acting like she was playing with someone. It sort of gave me chills because she was actually talking to someone. I ignored it. But later, she started mentioning the man. 3 days into living there is when things started happening. Her room has never been warm. I can turn the heater up to 75 degrees. I've brought a space heater into her room. The landlords have came and checked the windows and insulation. Everything is normal. But her room will not heat up. Her closet doors open at random times all by themselves. Now, at almost 3, she still talks about the man in her room. She's informed me that this man tells her she can do things, be bad, do things after she's been told no. She still sits around and talks to no one. We've lived here for 14 months, with just little things happening, usually around 2 a.m. Her bedroom door slams shut, and you can hear stomping down the hall and down the stairs. The laundry room doors open and slam shut. The water in the bathtub turns on by itself. Lately, things have become more aggressive and more frequent. I decided to decorate her room. I put up new curtains, put new blankets on her bed, and hung clothes up in her closet. I walked downstairs, leaving all the lights on, but shutting the closet doors. I was downstairs maybe 5 minutes. As I entered the hallway, I noticed that her door was closed. Nothing new. We're used to doors closing by themselves. But as I opened it, there was a rush of cold air. Again, nothing new. The light was off, and you could feel a presence in the room. It was angry, like someone was glaring at me. I ignored it and turned on the light. The curtains I had just hung had been ripped off the rod and were laying in the middle of the room. Her new blankets and sheets were off the bed. Her closet door was wide open again. My daughter refuses to sleep in her bedroom now, saying that the man scares her, that he yells at her. I've placed crosses around the house and around her room. I went as far to have my house blessed. And nothing has worked. In the last 2 months, I have woken up to someone screaming in my ear, the sound of my front door opening and slamming shut, my bathroom shower turning on, all at 2 a.m., and on nights that my daughter is staying at her grandma's. Story 3. Don't invite them in. It was the early 70s, and I was living in Ohio. My friend Jake and I were very close because both of our parents had gotten divorced around the same time when we were in our early teens. We also shared a similar interest in magic and trickery and the occult. We used to save our money and either buy magic tricks from magazines or make magic tricks from plans we could buy for our act. We learned of a magic shop in Dayton, and we couldn't drive at the time, but I would beg my older sisters to take us there. Discovering that the magic store existed opened us up to a vast world of new tricks and illusions. The shop also sold what we now would refer to as goth clothing and jewelry. As we was getting a bit older, the movie The Exorcist came out, and we thought that it was a neat idea to be a little darker and put some drama and stage production into the act and make it more of a show. We both attended a vocational school, so there were lots of talented people there, and we found a couple of girls who liked to dance. We added dancing demon girls to the beginning of our show, using black lights and dark jumpsuits to conceal the girls under sheets. Most of our tricks and illusions were dark in nature. Eventually, my friend Jake moved to Houston the year before we graduated. He got a job at a Galleria mall in the fun shop. After I graduated, I moved to Houston and stayed with Jake and his mom. I got a job at the same fun shop. Eventually, we pretty much ran the place. And again, we found a lot of new outlets for magic and occult. We eventually moved into an apartment together as housemates. Our interest in the occult only grew. It gave us an air of mystery to other people, and we liked that. As we made more friends and our reputations of being a little different spread, we decided to really mess with people. Jake's bedroom had a huge closet, and being young, he didn't have a whole lot to put in there. So we decided to dress it up and make it look like a devil-worshipping altar, for lack of a better term, with banners that we had, with skull-shaped candles, and the magic tricks. Our plans were when friends would come over, we would show them that and really freak them out. The very night we did this, at about 12 o'clock, I woke up to a pounding on the wall between Jake's room and my room. I sat up and I yelled, "What are you doing over there?" The pounding continued unrelentingly. I got out of bed and went over to the wall, and I yelled, "Knock it off! I'm trying to sleep." The knocking got louder and didn't show any signs of stopping. So I went over to Jake's bedroom and knocked on the door and said, "Hey Jake, stop it!" The pounding continued, so I opened the door to see Jake sitting up in bed, looking at the closet. My eyes went across the room towards the closet. As my vision passed his dresser, I saw the door slowly closing. I asked Jake if he had been doing the banging on the wall, and he said it wasn't coming from the wall between our rooms. It was coming from the closet. I continued looking on to the closet. As I saw the door, it was like it was breathing and jostling as if someone was trying to get out. And then it stopped suddenly. We were scared. We gathered up enough courage to both walk over, and we pulled the door open with ease. The closet was freezing. We looked around and saw no one, and nothing. The apartment we lived in was brand new. No one lived next door. Our neighbors downstairs were gone for the weekend. We asked the people behind us the next day why they were banging on the walls. They said they hadn't, and they didn't hear anything the night before. We immediately started ripping down all the decorations and cleared out that space. I'm still very interested in the paranormal, but I'll never invite it back in. I learned my lesson. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the stories. If you did, hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for listening. Bye.